Welcome everybody, and welcome Mark and Wade. Wade, our digital guru and head of multi-sports on our digital platforms, and Mark Keohane, you know. What you probably don't know is Mark's first love is cricket, not rugby. Am I right in saying that, Mark?
Yeah, very much. Back in the day when I was a young journalist, you had to choose one or two of the beats.
Yeah.
It was still a summer and a winter sport, and the veterans were always involved in cricket. So I kind of went to rugby and kind of stayed there. But yeah, cricket my first love. Yeah. Fell out of love with cricket a bit after the whole Hansi Cronje thing. Yeah. But kind of slowly fell back in love with it again. Very much a traditionalist of 5-day cricket, test cricket, and had to really be converted to T20, but still have a passion for ODI.
Have you ever been converted to T20?
Not really. No. So ODI is the closest I'm going to get to the shortened form. And I think 1992, when we came back into world cricket, I was a young journo, and I really lived that 1992 World Cup. The first ball from Alan Donald to Jeff Marsh, 145 Ks, caught behind, it's got to go, doesn't give him out. And then it ends with that 22 runs of 7 balls, 22 runs of 6 balls, and then 22 runs of 1 ball. Brian McMillan blocks it off Chris Lewis, and so I've been traumatized as a young man watching South Africa go to Cricket World Cups. 99.
Well, the trauma probably hasn't stopped from then, I imagine, from what I've read. And people, the sports guys say that the amount I know about cricket, you could run on the back of a matchbox. So that's why you guys are here. But I think I can still make some money from it. So tell me about, this trauma in South Africa. I didn't even know what a cricket bat was shaped like back in 1992. But when I came to South Africa in 96, it was my first introduction to cricket in a big way, and the amount of people that follow it in this country. But as an outsider looking in, the things that I would see in terms of South Africa, in terms of their Cricket World Cup appearances, were devastating to a nation.
But I think if you go back, and I think Wade will attest to this, is All Blacks, Springboks in terms of rugby, Australia, Proteas in terms of cricket. Yeah. And we had some of the best one-day sides, South Africa in the early 90s, late 90s, and 99 especially, when we went to the UK, we were creaming Australia in the pool game. Herschel Gibbs took the catch, then dropped the catch. And as the infamous Steve Waugh quote was that he threw away the World Cup. But then when we got to the semi-final, very few people forget that we actually didn't lose the semi-final, we drew the semi-final. Yeah. But we were walking that semi-final. And
who was that against? Australia?
Against Australia. Yeah. And we needed to get a run of 3 balls. Yeah. And Lance Klusener had been the most devastating striker at the World Cup.
Was it the Zulu?
Zulu. He just pasted 2 through the covers of poor rifle, I think it was, for 4. Yeah. And then there was just this madness of a run that they went for. And Alan Donald, who was making sure he was in his crease, he was blamed. Some say it should have been Klusener's fault. Australia drew it, went on to destroy Pakistan in the final on that Sunday. Yeah. And I think that's the closest in terms of what South Africa should have come to winning a World Cup. They had the best team in the world. But you then go to the Caribbean World Cup where they threw it away against Australia, 2015, and Wade will talk about that one because he lived that one as well, where we should have creamed New Zealand in terms of class. So our World Cups have been littered, a bit like pre-2011 New Zealand All Blacks. Ours has been littered with absolute devastation. How could a team this good actually lose?
Wait, tell me about the 2015. I remember it in Vegas, but I'm getting old now, and
I just briefly want to touch on the 92 World Cup. I remember it, albeit as a very small boy, so that turns the sort of context. And then growing up with the heartbreak that Mark's been going through that's part of the cricket following psyche in South Africa. There's just been heartbreak. I remember 99. I remember vividly crying when in my grandparents' house they were looking after us. Me and my brother. They were upstairs, we were downstairs, and it was carnage.
And there weren't tears of joy, I take it.
No, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that moment. I can remember it so vividly. Donald dropping his bat and off they go. And it's just been one disaster after another. And then 2015, that was our best chance to at least make the final. We've never made the final of the Cricket World Cup. One of 3 teams at this tournament to not have that honour. 2015 we had it. It had everything. We spoke pre-show. It had a little bit of rain. It denied AB and David Miller making big runs. It had a calamitous drop catch. I think Bayardine and Duminy combining there. It had a failed run out. It had everything, and at the end it had an expat.
Sounds like a Tarantino movie.
It is a sort of a horror comedy, if you will, if you're a South African fan. And I remember reporting on that game, and I think everyone, doesn't matter if you're supposed to be a journalist or impartial, you're a fan at first, and you love the game, and it just went south very bad.
But even there, you had a Grant Elliott who left to make a life for himself in New Zealand. Good journeyman, good schools player, played for the Lions, went over to New Zealand, 36 years old. It's like, this guy wouldn't make a franchise team in South Africa anymore. He strides to the wicket, clobbers a few runs. Dale Steyn, the best fast bowler South Africa's ever produced. Third ball of the over, slots one. He put him not for a 6, it was probably an 18. I think they're still looking for the ball in New Zealand. And of all the crass things that the cricketing gods could have done to us was to put a journeyman ex-South African there to destroy our dream. And I'm sure Grant Elliott never grew up in Johannesburg going to St. Stithians thinking, my dream is to knock Dale Steyn back over his head for 6. So we talk about trauma.
I think if it was a Tarantino movie, that would have been the end of a trilogy, and that's it. It is no happy ending. It's just broken wings.
Look, it's good that we can laugh about these things, but I mean, I think 2015, earlier on, we were chatting about Dale Steyn, got clopped by a journeyman. A journeyman couldn't make a franchise cricket team here. And you say that Philander and quota systems that raises its ugly head again. I mean, only in this country can that happen.
Yeah, but I mean, if you go back to in that specific one, Kyle Abbott had bowled very well.
Yeah.
And then there was the numbers just didn't add up in terms of the targets and the goals that have been put there.
Yeah.
If you're going to play international cricket in this country, you've got to meet certain targets.
Yeah.
But I thought it was such an insult to a guy like Vern Philander, fastest to 100 Test wickets,
Yeah.
hell of a cricketer, and he was then AB de Villiers was instructed that Abbott's got to go and Philander's got to come in, and he had been carrying an injury. So on that basis, I understand it. They didn't know if he was 100% fit, but in that semi-final, he went for 50, 79 overs. His economy rate was one of the better ones. Dale Steyn unfortunately just took a place in that Eden Park wicket. It's a flat track, so most fast quick bowlers go.
Yeah.
But
Small ground does it.
Yeah, he wasn't blamed. Morne Walker wasn't blamed because he was tearful, and AB wasn't blamed for his captaincy. It was Quotas and it was Vern Philander.
Yeah.
And you go back to the one-day side a couple of years ago. They beat Australia 5-0 in a home series. Never been done to Australia in their history. There were 8 players with colour in that 11.
Yeah.
No other South African team, none of those great South African teams in the 90s could do that. Yet the first time we lost a match post that, the first thing I read on social media was quotas are killing cricket. So,
well, there is a lunatic fringe in this country that want to hang on to the past and don't want to recognise that the country needs to move forward, as far as I'm concerned. I don't get that sense with this team. The team, I mean, let's talk about this team for a second. South Africa, very much under the radar. I think you made a comment earlier on to me just off camera that we always have the best team in between World Cups.
The stats do back that up. We have a phenomenal record between World Cups, and this team is different. This team isn't burdened by the past. There's I think 8 new faces of the 15.
Yeah.
There's youngsters. There's very talented young black players.
Yeah.
Rabada and Gidi would probably walk into most of those sides in the 90s, or at least push them very close. Or Rabada's a certain.
Yeah.
We have Quinton de Kock. He didn't have a good World Cup then, but he's certainly come on leaps and bounds, and he won't be burdened by the chokers tag, because that's something that's been quite spoken about a lot going forward now, is getting rid of that tag, and this team doesn't have it. They're a good bunch. We aren't the favourites for reasons, because the team is a little bit unsettled. We don't have our starting 11, and there's going to be a lot of talk till about just less than a week's time when we take the field against England.
And Otis, sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, if you look at what's very significant for me in terms of what we were talking about, quotas and representation of that, KG, Rabada, and Adam Markram, they were the first post-1994 generation, they hadn't been born yet, that won a junior World Cup for South Africa.
Yeah.
Rabada was the star bowler, and Markram was the star batsman. And that's the kind of generation that's going into there. So when people talk about 99 chokers, the history, those guys can't be tainted with it. They know how to beat the best at junior level. They were the first South African team to do that. And if you look at the squad makeup, yes, there are some players injured and we don't necessarily have our best starting 11 there. And it's criminal that AB de Villiers isn't there and he opted not to go. But in terms of representativity,
Sorry, I'll let you finish your point.
Representativity, that is every player is there because the selectors think they're the best in their position, and no one can turn around and say it's a pro-bias towards white, coloured, Indian or black. It's the most cosmopolitan representative side of a South African nation.
And 100% on merit.
Yeah.
There's no one there that you're saying is there because of the colour of his skin.
No, isn't that great though? Isn't it finally great that we're at a World Cup? Probably the first one ever from a cricket or a rugby point of view. From a World Cup point of view with one of our teams that actually is truly representative. And there's no talk of quota systems. There's no talk of any of that.
I think it's important that the message gets sent out. When the World Cup came, there was the only real talking point was Reza Hendricks or Hashim Amla.
Yeah.
There was no talk of anything to do with race, and that's good. And it's important that journalists and observers of the game make that point and don't label this team with the struggles of previous sides and of previous administration. This is their own new team. They got Faf, he's a great leader.
Yeah.
And this is their own team, and let them go out and play their brand. They aren't the favourites, so if they fail, let's leave it on the cricket field and say it's down to better teams, better prepared over a much longer period.
Yeah, it is a game after all. I mean, I know that doesn't resonate well with South Africans who are sports mad, but
do you know what's also very interesting for me, and this World Cup more than anyone else, and I'd like to hear your opinion on that, Wade, is the IPL has really taken away a lot of the aggro and nastiness in terms of international ODIs and T20s because they are now teammates. So you look at Bairstow saying batting the whole season with Warner. He learned so much from Warner. He thinks Warner learned from him. He says when they go out and play each other, Australia, England, yes, they want to beat each other, but there's not that nastiness or that kind of insular patriotism, misguided patriotism. And Faf has been one of the legends over the last 2 or 3 years in the IPL. He's taken them to victory so much. It's also given this South African team this global kind of appreciation of cricket as opposed to this very insular. We are going to be defined by whether we win a World Cup or not, or whether we win a cricket match or not. I think this is probably one of the more mature South African teams that is going to a World Cup, and there is life after this World Cup tournament.
I think it's certainly for me, looking at the build-up to this World Cup, to say South Africa will be is under the radar is probably the biggest, is an understatement of note. They're so under the radar, they're a stealth bomber. I mean, no one's talking about them winning it. They're 9-1 on the betting, and
and they beat England in the first game, and that whole position changes.
Everything changes.
The hosts are now rubbish. They were overhyped bunch of no-name brands, and South Africa are kings of the world and on track for a semi-final and final place.
If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. It's a big
But
if.
it is funny how this World Cup can hinge on that opening game.
I think Otis makes a good point that this is actually a perfect opening for them to play England. And the English press, England is talked up very much as the favourites, and the English press is probably the worst in the world at putting the boots in when things go wrong. So if England don't win this game against South Africa, my opinion is that then panic starts to set in, and it could change the whole complexion of this World Cup.
Well, I think there also with the format, 9 matches, okay?
Yeah.
So it's a league system where England has been so hyped, and most experts, ex-cricketers say it's the greatest England one-day side that's been built over the last 2 years. Kevin Peterson likened it to the great Australian sides that won 3 successive World Cups. If they did stumble against South Africa, and you said it pre-show, it's very possible in the opening game, few nerves. You've got 8 matches to get it right. Will their media allow them to those 8 matches? And then we're going to see a very different side to the English media and that one-day side. 1 or 2 injuries, do they crumble? With South Africa, Otis, there's a bit that actually wants South Africa to stumble in that first game and then grow into that tournament and kind of go under the radar. Because if they beat England, it's going to be all about South Africa.
Yeah.
And how do we then cope with that expectation?
Yeah, well, that's true.
Especially because we play Bangladesh second, which we should knock them over. Then we play India. So now we've won 2 games. Beat India, you've got 1 foot in the semi-finals.
Yeah.
I think that heaps the pressure. So I think Otis will do well to keep his guys cool and calm, and whatever happens in that first game, I think he'll take, because if we win, that's a massive step up on the rest of the field, because England aren't going to lose too many games. And if we lose, well then we were expected to lose. Now our World Cup really starts with the next 8 games of trying to win 6 of those to make the last 4.
So there really is. You kind of almost want them to lose to England, to keep the pressure on England. I mean, it's one of those.
Let's take a tie. A tie will be good, eh?
Maybe a rain dance.
Or rain dance.
And as the South African cricket team, every possibility is on the table.
Yeah.